Are you ready to disrupt your workplace sandbox? Play nice in the sandbox is a metaphor that we all remember, right? It's those timeless principles of caring and sharing and working together, which is really easy when things are nice and easy. But how do you and your teams manage through conflict? Do you throw sand? Do you pick up your toys and go home? Well, there's not much difference between the workplace sandbox and the early childhood sandbox, except the cost. Conflict costs corporate billions of dollars. I know. Lots and lots of money. And I know what you're saying, ouch! And all players should be saying ouch, because conflict resolution is everyone's responsibility. And profits can be used for other things. What would you use more profit for in HR? What would you use more profit for in your business? So disrupting the idea of the sandbox is about realizing that the sandbox is actually round. This concept came to me one day when I was working with an Indigenous group, and I handed an elder my new business card, my new brand, Play Nice in the Sandbox. And he studied it for a long time. And then he looked at me and he said, "Our sandbox is round." And I thought, you're right. The sandbox is round because we play nice face to face. When we get angry, what do we want to do? We want to turn our back. We want to revert to our corner and be in our silos, right? But playing nice in the sandbox means moving inward and positioning ourselves to face people, especially when the going gets tough. And that really disrupts our instincts, doesn't it? Right? So playing nice in the sandbox is a lot about the circle on the inside of the sandbox. And the work that I do with communities, Indigenous and non, I use the circle approach because the circle symbolizes unity. It has no beginning and end, and it's all about equality. And when I can get people positioned and facing each other in a circle, a lot of magic happens. In fact, when I studied at Harvard, I realized that the origin of mediation actually comes from the Indigenous tribal leaders who brought people together to resolve social conflict into a circle. And so the very first part of the Play Nice acronym in my 8-step system is to position ourselves. I believe that leadership is about leading ourselves and others in that order. So positioning ourselves is about taking a look within. And I like to talk about the sport of golf and tell you a little bit about my favorite golfer, Ryan, my son. To get that little white ball 300 yards that way, what direction does he swing first? He has to go back, right? Or a pitcher, to get that baseball over the plate, they go in the opposite direction first, and so it is with us. If we want to come out really big on the outside, we have to go in first and do things like clean up our suitcase. The stuff that we're packing around that's really old, the stuff that has patterned our mind to think certain ways, and clean that stuff up, because when we can show up clean and clear, we realize that so much of conflict is an inside job. It's our work to do. And so when we can recognize that, we have so much more potential to show up positioned and ready to play nice in the sandbox. I want to tell you a story about Mary. I was called to an organization because Mary accused her boss of harassment. And after doing some work with Mary, I realized that there wasn't really any harassment. Actually, there was a full investigation done before I got there. And as you know, investigations cost a lot of money. I met with Mary and realized that she was sexually harassed some 20 years ago by a different employer. And even though the situation was reported and things were dealt with appropriately, Mary was still packing that around in her suitcase. When I brought her together with her manager, she vulnerably shared this information. Even just in the awareness of it, she began her healing. But the healing for the couple of them, the two of them together, was in the empathy. So two things happened. The manager was relieved that he wasn't the source of the problem, but also that he could feel her. He could see her. His eyes could connect with her. His heart could connect with her soul. And he came up with it on his own that he would just work with her a little differently. So the sandbox is round, and we have to really learn to face people and work through conflict, because it's definitely an inside job.